Alright, we're gonna try this one more time. I've recorded it several times. Cell phone camera, cell phone microphone. No idea if you could hear me, but I just keep getting lost on tangents, straight up. So, the last video I made was about role-playing, but it wasn't actually about role-playing at all, and I feel like that overshadowed the actual message, so I wanted to make a follow-up video to like kind of get the message straight with none of those overtones. So the point was that you can get more out of games by doing interesting things in games, because that inherently makes them more interesting to play, right? So instead of role-playing examples, we're going to use more familiar examples that are less do whatever you want, right? So in League of Legends, a lot of players have this inner desire to be a part of a team. Some of them want to go pro, right? And some of them want to just kind of play for fun. But I think, I don't know about most, right? Because who knows? But a lot of League players I've talked to or that I know, they have this desire to be part of a well-functioning team with specific roles and a shot caller and scheduled practices, and they watch replays together and all that stuff. They're climbing the ladder, right? But they never apply to be on a team. And they don't start a team. And there are a lot of reasons they give, like, oh, I'm in bronze, I can't join or start a team. Like, who wants to be on a bronze team? And what I've found, and this part's my opinion and my theory, right, is that no one of those 5 people wants to be perceived as giving a disproportionate amount of give-a-dams to the average of the other 4 people. So I'll phrase that differently, right? In a ton of scenarios, in the corporate world, in real life, in video games, people will say something along the lines of, if that's what we're doing, I'm down. Or if we're not doing that, well then okay. They want to be easygoing, and they want to mesh well with the group, and they don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. But what happens is that nobody wants to be that guy. So nobody ever starts anything. They want these things, but they don't want to start it, right? You want to be on a team, but you don't want to, be the only one of your friends that you know that's trying to join a team. Like, that's awkward. They can call you tryhard, sweaty. But I think you should. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is why you should, right? So we're going to use a roleplay example. I know I said it wasn't, but here's a roleplay example for you. Tavern nights, which, for those of you that don't know, is everyone shows up at a tavern in an MMORPG and they roleplay. That's it. There's nothing to it. You just come in character and you chat. It's enjoyable, but too often it's the only thing roleplay communities do. So a lot of people are like, I want to start a roleplay community on my server. And they'll be like, would anyone be interested in joining a tavern night? I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen when you post that. You can get 3 posts, 3 specifically, that say, absolutely, anytime, any place, you name it, I'll be there. You will never hear from these humans again. They're liars. They just won't show up, right? You're going to get like 30 thumbs up on the forums. Those are from PvPers that don't want the server to die. They're really glad that you posted something and are trying to do anything. They are not interested, they won't show up. Then there's the lurkers, the actual players of the server who clicked the title of your post. They're interested, but only if everyone else is interested. And that's where we come to. So if nobody shows up, nobody wants to be at your tavern night, right? Nobody wants to be there by themselves. If 5 people show up, some people are into small roleplay scenarios and they just want to know it's a real thing that's happening. They'll show up. If 5 people show up, so now you've got like 6, maybe 10. And then other people, if there are like 10 people, like, oh yeah, I'll check that out. Like, maybe it's interesting, Enough people are interested that I'll check it out. And as you go up the numbers, more and more people are willing to get interested. But everyone's got their own personal threshold at which there's enough interest to justify the interest that they already have because they clicked the fucking button, right? So what's really going to happen is that you're going to be the only person at your own tavern night for like a year, like 2 years, like 100 tavern nights in. Nobody has ever shown up to your tavern night, and those 3 guys reply every fucking week to your thread. Let me tell you. But on night 101, little did you know, 5 new players joined the server that week. This is the first time they've ever heard about you. They are very interested. They're all real-life role-playing friends. They play D&D together. So there's 5 people that show up at your tavern, right? You all have a great time, and they come back the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And then you have a little role-playing community, because a couple more people were interested in these small role-play events, right? And every day after 101 is the best day ever. It's the best time you could possibly have. Is exactly what you wanted out of your game. You never, ever, ever get there if you do not start in the first place. If you don't pull the trigger, if you're not willing to be the only guy there at your tavern by yourself 100 times in a row, you never get to the best time ever, lifelong friends on the other side. And that's miserable because you'll sit around for the same amount of years playing the game. You will. Wishing that there was a roleplay community, not doing anything about it, not even having a chance of success, hoping somebody else takes care of it. Will not work. So going back to the League example, right, where you want to join a team, but you haven't applied. Let's say you have applied, you have joined a team, but the team is lame. They're in a rut. They don't do the replays or the shot callers or the scheduled practices. They just play ranked together and hope they'll get better. But you dream of being on the organized team, where you've got a role, and you're just trying to perfect your role, you're doing the best you can, you're bros, right? You need to push that down the field. And it's not going to be by, would anyone be interested in watching replays? That's not it. You start watching the replays on Discord. You hit the little share screen button. You start pinging people like, hey, what were you thinking here? Not like, what were you thinking here? And fuck you, right? But like, hey, come talk to me about this replay. Look how interesting it is to watch a replay, right? And you keep doing it until the whole team's watching replays together. And then you discuss pro matches. You watch pro replays together. You're like, oh man, they have a shot caller. Maybe we should get a shot caller. And it's way easier to say it than to do it, right? I know that. Because I was the loser in my tavern by myself for 2 years. Lived that life. It's not fun, but it was totally worth it. I have lifelong friends now. But in the League example, like, the most you'll get out of League of Legends without putting in the effort, without pushing a bronze team into silver by implementing these new things, and not like being a dick, right? Not like we'll never get anywhere if we don't have a shot caller, or you don't watch replays, you're new, right? Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about start doing the things you want to get out of the game and let people come along, because people will come along. People love to bandwagon, but nobody wants to pull the trigger. Nobody wants to give the disproportionate effort, right? So your job is to raise the average as much as you can. Convince other people to give more, little by little, until the average is high enough that everyone is like, oh, well, yeah, if everyone's doing it, well, then yeah, like, we're going to watch replays, like, obviously. It will happen. I'm telling you, it will happen. So that's an example from League of what's more interesting, so you can play more interesting games, because without a team in League, you're just kind of, hitting the buttons and stuff. But if you want that highly organized team environment that you dream of, you got to build it. You just do. You got to join a team or start a team. And then you have to push that team down the field, and you got to climb the ranks. And that extends to starting roleplay things, and that extends to starting skirmishes and scrimmages in planet side, doing 6v6s. That is not a developer supported thing. Like, just grab some friends, do 6v6s, and now you have a game where you can go do 6v6s. It's that simple. Easy to say, hard to execute. I know you can't get 12 people organized towards anything. But you will definitely never get 12 people organized towards anything if you don't start. Little tangent, I know. Tangents screw me every time I try to record this, but we're going to go on a little single-player tangent about making things, or keeping things interesting, right? I'm going to use an MMO example of a single-player thing. So, really common in World of Warcraft, new raid comes out. Elite Guild stomps it. They post the video, they post the notes, like, oh, world first, right? Casual players, normal guys like you and me, are part of a guild, right? And we go look it up. We got to learn the mechanics before we ever try the dungeon. And we just do what they did and we win and it's easy. And then we bitch about no content shit easy game for the next 3 months. It took the Elite Guild data mining and strategizing and several attempts and different team compositions and A squad and B squad and all the knowledge of the game to optimize and figure it out what exactly they need to clear it first in the world. They had a great time doing every bit of that. Maybe not every bit, right? But they got to play the game that you dream of playing. The game that you think of when you think, oh man, I'm going to play an exciting MMO RPG, I'm going to do raids, and it's going to be great, that's going to be the experience. But it's not because you look up the answers. You deprive yourself of the fun parts, and it's insane, it's crazy. I've done it to myself, I regret it every time, and it's why I'm not part of a guild in an MMO, because so many of them have become this cookie cutter, like, copy the world first guys as many times as possible over the next 3 months, instead of spending those 3 months figuring it out and having the fun of multiple attempts and different strategies and all this stuff. They do the boring thing instead. Now, I said I was going to relate this to single-player games. Single-player games. You like to min-max. Okay? In this scenario, in this hypothetical, you like to min-max. You want to get every number as high as possible, best in slot, right? You want to know the maximum damage you can deal at any given time in the game. So you get all that knowledge, you get all that skill and execution, and you've played this game 1,000 hours. And now you're done with it. Now you're bored. Now you'll never play it again. Happens often, right? Because the part of the game you enjoyed was the min-max, right? You can keep that fresh in a single-player game. The first step is don't look stuff up, right? Like, figure all that out yourself. It will take you forever to actually understand all of the mechanics deeply and to come up with your own opinions of why things are super good and why things aren't, right? And there's a point where you start looking on forums and, like, you want to hear other people's takes and stuff, and that can be interesting, you know, but at least give yourself until you can form your own effective opinions of things like this stuff I just don't like, right? Like, that's me, you know? But when it comes to effectiveness, like, you can go on the forums, you can figure it out, but don't do that before you've had the fun of figuring it out, right? So at this point, it's a solved game for you, right? Like, it's done. But as you add constraints and do challenge runs, speed runs, no healing runs, or don't use this item, or character theme narrative, you know, like, you're gonna do a themed build or a cosplay or something, right? Like I said, I'd keep roleplay out of it, but optimizing and min-maxing under those constraints is the same skill set of fun. Same fun skill set that you used in the first place, that you enjoyed about the game. And you can do it all again. You can. And so, I mean, I guess that's my whole point, right? Is that you can get more out of games. And I know a lot of it's goofy and idealistic and, like, high effort, first and foremost, like 100 weeks of being the only guy in your tavern sounds shitty. That's 2 years, 2 years of just, once a week, like just sitting there like nobody showed up. It's also only 2 hours on a Thursday, right? Like, the potential end result is that every single day you play is the best day you've ever had in a game. While if you do nothing, you're going to have some fun for 2 weeks, and then you're going to be disappointed that the game was not what you wanted it to be. And you're going to do that through a lot of games over many years, and you're going to end up disappointed in general, right? Like this is not an argument for what you should do or how people should play games. This is a suggestion that you invest in your long-term interest and hobby, and just the general observation that the more structure and aspects that you build on top of a game, the more you'll get out, right? So join the team, start the team, pull the trigger, be the guy that gives the disproportionate amount of effort to make the game more interesting. And I think you'll have a better time. And that was the original point of the last video and of this video. Talk to you guys next time.